Welcome to Geordie Lass Doc Sass. One day, a Geordie and a Canadian walk into a bar and decide to start a podcast about relationships, and what a topic that is. No subjects are off limits. Get in touch today with us at geordielass.com or email info@geordielass.com and let us know what you think and what we should talk about. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Oh, well, I can finally say, because this dry of January is over, so I can say to everybody, yamas. Cheers.
Indeed. I made it through dry January, and then I might have had a bit of a fizzy start to February.
Me too. Oh, my God. Yeah. Isn't
Had
that crazy?
thing where you don't do anything for ages and then 3 nights come together all at once. A bit like buses.
Oh, yeah, it's like a bit like buses.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So,
Were you naughty? Were you misbehaved?
not naughty, no. Just consumed more than I have done in the last wee while, as I've not been drinking at all.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. Oh,
So,
that's
yeah,
beautiful.
no, I wasn't naughty, but it was good fun catching up with friends and just eating like lots of scrummy food.
Oh, beautiful.
So, yeah, cannot complain. I'm a very lucky girl.
Right? Friends,
Yes.
family, and abundance.
Absolutely.
That is
Absolutely.
wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, okay.
And,
Beautiful.
and just want to say, recording podcast, and it's still almost light outside.
It is?
So excited.
Oh my gosh. Okay, here in Athens, we're 2 hours ahead of you, so like
Yeah.
no way in hell. But are you serious? Oh my
I can see
gosh.
outside. I
Sarah.
can still see the sky.
Summer is coming. Getting our bikinis in our minds.
By the end of the podcast, I'll be sat in pitch black, but for now,
That's true.
I can still see some daylight.
Damn. Your deck furniture is, oh my God, your deck furniture. It's going to be the first.
Yeah, it's going to be out.
year.
It's going to be, we're going to
soon,
be playing
guys.
out in this new house before you know it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. Bring on the summer. I am ready.
Let alone that we still have all of February and all of March and all of April and all of May.
We're not
Oh my God.
mentioning that. Oh, no, it's here. It's just around the corner.
Oh my God. Wonderful,
Can't convince
wonderful.
me otherwise.
Oh, beautiful. Little shout out, Canadian moment for a lover, a legendary lover of Canada. Michael Bauble just won a Grammy for his album.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't love a bit of Michael?
Oh. Me and a lovely friend went to see him in Toronto. Oh my God. It was a panty dropper. Like,
Oh, I can imagine.
there wasn't
I
a
can't
dry
imagine.
set of genitals in the house.
Are you going to say dry eye there?
No.
Clearly, I got my
sexy
body
Anna.
parts mixed up.
I've got my body parts. No, south, Sarah. South. Go south.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, so shout out. Super exciting. So, and yeah, we all love a little bit of Michael. Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
Which speaks to, you know what? Spontaneous desire often goes away 6 months to 2 years in, but reactive desire, you put on some Michael Bublé and think about sex for like 6 hours, you'll be ready to roll by the time the evening rolls around. So I think that Michael has been part of many a reactive, desirous evening. And I say, good on you there, eh?
Yeah, get a bit of Bublé on, and who knows what might pop out.
Right? Get the Bublé on, get in bed, take your clothes off, and see what happens.
See what happens. All right. Some sexy advice there from Anna this week.
It's February. We got to do something. So listen. Okay, relationship desk of
Yes.
love. What is popping over on that desk?
I feel like I'm going to depress you now after that intro. I feel like I need to quickly change my relationship news, but I'm sorry, this is all I've got for you this week.
The desk is serious. They stick to their cause.
Yeah. So the desk would like to share that apparently there are some big downsides to being single.
Okay. That is a total tone shift. What?
Exactly.
But I thought,
I'm sorry.
Sarah,
I feel like
you
if I'd
buttered
known
me
you were
up
going to
for
get
these past
Bublé out,
weeks.
I would have had something different to lead with. But
Well, but listen, I can still get Bublé out and get all sexy with myself, right?
this is where we're at. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So apparently there is a significant cost to being single. And when I say cost, I mean financial.
Oh.
Yeah. So the average person who is single, they're kind of dubbing this a single tax, pays up to £1,000 more a month than their coupled counterparts.
A month.
Yeah.
Month.
But I guess you could understand it, right? Because when you think about costs that you're going to share things like your mortgage, your rent, your, whatever your kind of household bills are. You're going to share kind of all of those things. Sometimes there's kind of different tax rates or, depending on where we are in the world, then, there may be some governments that favour couples that live together. It also said things like memberships, because you could get kind of family memberships, or even things like your Netflix. Subscription or Spotify, like all of those things, you're generally kind of signing up for one account, aren't you?
Yeah.
So all of these things are adding up. And there was, in this article I was reading, the woman was actually, who they were interviewing, was getting really annoyed because she could see all of her friends on Instagram, Facebook, social media, going off, enjoying lovely little jolly holidays, trips away. And she was furious because she couldn't afford to do any of those things because she's paying for all of her costs herself.
I'm like, I mean, you're so right. Like my rent itself went up $700 for sure. For sure.
$700.
Yeah, from going from couple to single.
From being not just as in general. Sorry, I was thinking that's quite a hike.
You're like, and why are you bringing up your rent?
Like,
Anna, this is not the time or the place.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, sorry, I'm back in.
No, listen. Hey, you can see the sunshine still. So you're like, I don't know, my mind's not. But that is... I thought that this would be like the cost of dating and the cost of frequent waxes and all the necessary things that go along with trying to impress people.
Didn't even go into that. Jesus. Just the cost of living.
God. Okay. This is crazy.
So, yeah. But it also went on to then kind of say, this is why some people may be in relationships, but actually kind of don't want to leave because of the cost implications. And we see that a lot with clients where not all relationships can successfully be saved. So sometimes it has to come to a point where you say, okay, this relationship isn't right for us. And when you work through coaching, we can kind of help you to see the full picture and what decision is right for you. It's not about kind of us saying as coaches how we think that you should live your life. So we will support you in whatever decisions, choices you make. But sometimes, quite sadly, people can be prohibited from making some of the decisions that they want to make because of financial reasons. And
at a tune of $1,000 a month.
Some of those prices, you can see it, right?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
So, definitely come down from Bauble, but...
Well, okay, but here's the thing. We know, the devil we know is better than the devil we don't. If we know that, then it means that $1,000, like... We often talk as coaches about the price of happiness, right? So the cost of the price of happiness of leaving a job. Let's say you have to take a $50,000 pay cut. I'm thinking of Toronto or New York markets, but $50,000 pay cut a year. And for some people, that's the price of their happiness. Sure. I will take a $50,000 pay cut to be happier. Same. I will pay $1,000 more a month to be happier. Yeah. And if that's just knowing that and you're like, well, I guess that's the price of my happiness. Yeah. So like everything we budget. But
also you're always in choice. So what other options do you have? If it's not living with your partner, is it living with somebody else? Yes. Is it, shared accommodation? Is it, maybe moving back with your parents for a bit until you get to a position where you can find something. Maybe you change location. So you move to somewhere that's got a slightly cheaper cost of living, or if you can find one of those places right now. But what other options do you have? So that's also something that's worth exploring.
Yeah, you've got it. All right. Yeah. Okay. I feel a bit more ready. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we hot topic?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Today's hot topic: the role of forgiveness in a relationship.
Okay. Yep. This is big. I'm like, what? Why does this have to be hard too? But this is great. We take on hard things. This is awesome.
Well, and forgiveness is something that, I don't know, do we often kind of stop and pause and think about, forgiving our partners, I think the role of forgiveness comes into lots of different areas, doesn't it? So it's, how do you forgive each other for the things? How do you forgive yourself for, some things that maybe you're less proud of? there are other dynamics within the family relationship often. You know, are we holding on to some grudges and, you know, holding on to some issues that are outside of the relationship as well? And then is that having a knock-on impact within the relationship? You know, there's lots of different parts to this, I think. You know, the other week we were talking about the question was the guy sleeping on the dad sleeping on the sofa. You know, and in that situation, you know, do we have to be able to kind of forgive some of those choices, some of those decisions, to be able to, you know, let go and move on and be able to move to a happier place?
You've got it. And I think that we, as coaches or therapists, we have enough work as it is to deal with communication issues in the here and now. What is absolutely untenable is dealing with the mountain of past hurts and errors and you know, and we really do kind of call out a statute of limitations. Like if it happened more than 12 months ago, we got to decide when to move on and to not keep rehashing and bringing up the past, because it weighs down our work so heavily. But you've been doing this for years. You did that 20 years ago. It really takes the eye off of the prize, which is we need to get on a better footing with communication right now.
Yeah.
The past does not help us.
I don't see how you can have a successful relationship if you can't at some stage learn how to forgive and move on from things. Yeah. Because none of us, you know, we were just talking the other day, we've been together for 7 years. And we've been, you know, in some ways it feels like it was only yesterday. You know, people kind of, I never believe people when they said that, but, you know, in some ways you can kind of still really vividly remember some of those early days, those kind of more kind of hedonistic moments when you first meet. So you can kind of like, in some ways, you can get transported back to that time quite easily, quite quickly. It feels like it was just around the corner. But then in other ways, if you start to think about some of the milestones and some of the moments and some of those more defining parts of your relationship, a lot of those will be steeped in challenges, in conflict, in upset, in hurt. But when we move beyond those and we deal with them, and we learn more about each other and how to practice forgiveness, that's when we start to get some real strength and some depth to a relationship. So I don't know how you can have a successful relationship if you can't learn some sort of forgiveness.
Yeah, I think it's because we all assume that a happy and perfect relationship is without fault. Like the super annoying people who are like, we never fight. That is terrible. That is like the biggest red flag is we never fought, we never fight. Because if you don't believe that it is normal to have conflict and to hurt each other inadvertently or sometimes totally on purpose, then you don't even come prepared thinking that forgiveness is important, because we're never going to do anything to hurt each other, says the love song. So why would we need the tool of forgiveness?
Yeah.
How flawed is that, hey?
Well, you know, I'm sure that there are some couples out there that genuinely don't have kind of, or maybe they're already practicing forgiveness right from the outset. So when something happens, it isn't turned into a kind of drama fest. It's not kind of all blown up into proportion. They can see each other's flaws. And that is part of forgiveness, is being able to see the flaws in your partner and still love them regardless.
But not tolerate stuff that is really over the line, right? Like forgiveness is not just tolerating quietly and putting up with stuff that is crossing a boundary or not fulfilling your needs or breaking your values.
And this is where it's always the trickiest area, I think, because the thing that comes up as well is around kind of needs. So if I'm forgiving you because there's something that you haven't done, but my needs are not being met in the process, like, you know, who's most important? There isn't one single person that should be kind of, of primary importance in the relationship. We have to be able to have this balance. We have to, at some point, be able to get back to balance. And we know that shifts over time. But if we look at, I look at the last 7 years of my relationship, have we had balance? Yes, we have. Have there been times when one of us has been more testing than the other? Absolutely. But we've both kind of been there, and to be able to practice that forgiveness and let go. But as you say, not to the point where it's always one-sided. So it's always one person that's forgiving and letting go and the other person isn't. Or one person that can see some of those areas to be able to, you know, practice that humility, to be able to let go of some things, but the other party can't, then I think that can also be very tricky for a relationship.
Yeah. Oh, this is tough waters. So, you know, the thing about that they say about forgiveness is not us doing a benevolent act to somebody else. It's actually like a really satisfyingly selfish thing to do. It is forgiveness allows me to move on so I don't have to let something remain and take up precious real estate in my head. And I choose to let it go and to not think about it and not to allow it to kind of rouse uncomfortable feelings and not to keep feeding it with energy. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. And when you're in that state of holding on to something, that's quite draining. It's quite, you know, it's very catabolic. It's taking all of your energy. It's taking all of your thought processes. It's consuming you. You're not allowing any space for any of the other happy parts of a relationship to get in.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And it, again, it's the positive bias, negative bias, because if we're like, oh, you always do this, oh, remember all the bad times, then we're going to shade our sort of perception of our relationship as bad when actually there's like some really great things that, and I was reminded about in my last relationship is with all the negative stuff that you bring up from the past, do you remember nothing being good? Like, are you just walking away from this relationship thinking everything was bad? And that it was a wake-up call because there were some beautiful moments. Like 100%. Like my past relationship was incredible. And forgiveness has to be there. Otherwise I'll walk away being like, oh, it was terrible. And it wasn't. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was all the things.
Yeah. And it's important to remember the things that did make you happy, because they're also the things that you're going to seek in a new relationship.
Yes. I do like... Yes, that's so true. I do like myself a good cup of tea in the morning, and I do love myself a man who writes well. Those are things to remember. Yeah. I know. And that's the thing. Forgiveness allows me to, like, you know, put out of my mind all the stupid, shitty stuff and be like, oh my God, that tea and those beautiful messages. Yeah, those were beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, forgiveness. So how do you forgive? What on earth do you do?
Well, I think it's hard because when we're not forgiving, then we are holding on to the fact that often we feel like we're right and you were wrong. So there's this blame element that's there. And we know that that's the ego talking, because who's to say who's right, who's wrong, who's to say what's important, what isn't. We all place a different value and belief and view on the situations that are in front of us. I'm continually reminded that my interpretation of something may be very different to my partner's.
Oh God, yes. Ridiculous. Yeah.
So, you know, in those moments, I need to be able to try and understand something from my partner's point of view. I need to understand where they were coming from. I think the other thing that's really important is to look for the positive intention. What were they trying to do at the point that they did whatever they did that really annoyed you?
It's so
because
true.
I'm pretty sure they weren't deliberately trying to pee you off. So, you know, where was that positive intention? What is it that they were trying to do or provide in a good way for you that maybe's just missed the mark and you haven't quite got it? I think we also have to remember that we are all flawed. None of us are perfect.
FYI,
right?
yeah.
We just don't exist, right? So sometimes we will say things that maybe are a bit ungracious.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will do something that is thoughtless and we haven't considered the other person. Sometimes it'll be a downright pain in the arse. And, you know, all of us have got that capacity inside of us to do something that messes it up for the other person. Yeah. So I think sometimes when we can't let go and we can't forgive, we are holding on to this false view that we are, you know, that we are right and we are perfect and we've got all our shit together. They need to go and do the same.
Yes. Totally. I think I'm like a freaking bed of roses, like just so perfect, so desirable. I'm like, why doesn't somebody get me? I'm like without flaw. Totally. 100%. Like it's amazing. And I know that to be untrue. But like when I'm in it, I am 100% entitled. Like I'm the right. Yeah. My way or the highway. Yeah.
And it's understandable that we're going to think like that because we've had a long time growing up with ourselves, and we know kind of who we are inside out. We know all the things that the kind of inner messages, that inner dialogue. Like we have the most intimate relationship with ourselves. Yeah. So why would we not think that we're right in all situations? Because we're living in our own version of reality.
Well, and funny enough, we are always aware of our own intentionality. So we're like, I meant well, because we know what we're feeling. And so we are very blind to what we're doing out in the world, because we're like, well, but I meant well. And there's also negative messaging too. And a lot of us are equally plagued by horrible messages, totally also untrue. Yeah. But it is true that when I'm thinking I'm a bed of roses, because like everything that I do is like, I meant well, and I'm just trying my best and all that sort of stuff. All the grace that I should be giving to other people, which sometimes I give to myself in too much measure. And then other times I'm also equally hard on myself. You're right. It's all over the place. Yeah. But it's true.
I think, and often a really useful question to ask yourself is, what am I losing by holding on to this, by holding on to whatever the issue is? So whatever it is I can't forgive you about. What am I missing out on? What do I no longer have access to? And is that trade-off worth the price?
Well, most of the time what I'm losing is potentially your relationship. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to realize like this isn't a low stakes game. I think we work with a lot, especially when we do couples work. There's one part of the couple who I think is not aware of how close they are to the edge of their partner being like, I'm done. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And there's others who are like, we're often far closer to the edge of dissolution of our relationships than we think. So I think, what do you have to lose? It's often your relationship. Like this is all really high stakes stuff. Like it's so important to change our patterns. I don't know why I'm in this do or die kind of mood. Maybe it's because of some recent client work, but I'll sometimes be with clients and one of them is like kind of really holding on to their old way, just thinking there's more time on the clock. And I can see them both. I can see the dynamic and I'm like, I don't think you've got more time. We've got to like pull up the plane and like, otherwise this thing is going into the ground. Oh, that's terrible. But like, anyways, it's just...
We're all doomed. Well,
I think it's important to realize when it is a do or die moment, when it's time to bring out the last ditch attempts. What do you have to lose if you do practice more forgiveness? Our ego, our attachment to being right, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Which hurts. It sucks to, not see yourself as the protagonist of your own movie. But sometimes we do. Sometimes we're not the best, they're not the best, but we're trying, and forgiveness and move forward and brand new day. It's really important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I'm thinking of a big old hug, like a good old, something that, forgiveness can be hard to like say, I forgive you. But in the interim, sometimes it's just important to bring yourselves back together. And that might be something that you really enjoy doing together. Like what's that thing that breaks the tension? Is it come on over here, let me give you a hug. Let's just go and do a nice activity that we like doing together. Whatever it is, like sometimes you just need a bit of a truce before the forgiveness act to bring you back together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, it isn't necessarily something that can just happen in a, the flick of a switch in a moment. It's not always that easy. Sometimes we need process and time. Yeah. We need to maybe have a conversation about whatever it is that's happened. Yeah. We need to understand what was actually going through your mind when kind of you did whatever you did. Yeah. And so we can understand more about the, our partner, the other person in this, and try and find that positive intention. And then maybe we need kind of a bit more processing time. And you're right, often we do need that kind of slow kind of build up back to feeling like we're in a stronger position again in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one baby step at a time.
Yes.
That's
I like
all
it.
takes.
I like it.
And I think that kind of, you know, that little kind of gentle reach out to just kind of bring somebody back closer to you is often the thing that is just needed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's the smallest thing and the most important thing.
I feel like I need a hug now.
Right? I know. It would be so wonderful.
Oh, we'll have a virtual hug and we'll send one out to the listeners too.
Oh, everybody virtual hugs. Big bear hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Shall we skip to a question?
Let's go.
My boyfriend stays out for 2 or 3 nights a week with no real explanation. When I asked him in the past why he hasn't got in touch, he's just said that his phone runs out of battery really quick. But why didn't he use a friend's phone to get in touch with me? We've been going out for 3 years and we live together, but we don't have any kids. How should I handle this?
This is really perplexing. 3 years.
Yeah.
I can
3
see if
years
it's like
and 2 or 3 nights a week.
That's like, whoa. Whoever this is, you've really been tolerating this. Wow.
There's been a lot of forgiveness going on here.
Yeah. This might be on the other side of the fence of too much forgiveness. Yeah. Yeah. Like 2 months sounds fine. Like, to be honest, like, it is super normal when starting out a relationship where you've not made a commitment to monogamy or like, you know, exclusivity, to totally not know what that person is doing several nights a week. That's actually really healthy.
Yeah. I'm torn a little bit, I think, on this question, because I often think that in a relationship, somebody does kind of take it as they find you, and if you're not kind of necessarily that right person, but then, you know, on the flip side, there needs to be a bit of kind of give and take and a bit of understanding. But then there is this kind of step too far where if that gulf in the relationship, in the kind of this is how I expect to live my life and this is how you expect to live your life, is so big and so vast and so different that you can never kind of reach any sort of middle ground, then, you know, where do you go with that? So there's a few questions for me, like, has this always been the case? Mm-hmm. So when you first met, from kind of day one, and you started to get a bit serious, obviously at some stage you moved in together, was the staying out, was that always present? Is it always something that's been in a relationship? But now, maybe 3 years on, you're kind of thinking, well, I thought this shenanigans would have stopped by now, but it's still there. So that's kind of one thing that comes up for me. The other is the secrecy. So I would find that difficult, I think. In a relationship, you should be quite transparent and honest and open with each other. I know you're not going to share 100% of the time, but the majority of stuff you should be sharing, and particularly where you are 2 or 3 nights a week, surely.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the only other thing where, you know, if we're coaching this one person, we are relying upon one side of the story, right? So, and we can only coach with the information that somebody gives. So if the reality is actually you do know where they are, but you're really miffed that they are not responding to you throughout their activity, that's something where a truth check is like, well, okay, but I know that they're at this dance practice, but, you know, they don't answer my phone. I keep messaging them throughout and they're not responsive during the evening. So the only thing I would say is sometimes you just have to dive in there and to be like, you don't know, like not a clue where they are. Like they could be at the gym. You don't know. Or do you know and you have troubles doing separate things and remaining differentiated in your own business while your partner is having that healthy solo time, which every partner should take.
It's 2 or 3 nights a week though, staying out all night. I mean,
I was just throwing a bit of
healthy balance in relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I was throwing out benefit of the doubt. Like the thing is that, you know, it is super important for as individuals, and we're not well trained for this because neither am I. I'm like, oh, you're my person. I get to do everything with you. And if you want to do stuff by yourself, I feel rejected. Like you don't want to be with me anymore because you want to take time for yourself. So certainly like a normal thing would be several nights a week where I know generally where the person is. I'm not blowing up their phone because they're like, I don't want a message in between. That's great. And I'm going to say come home at a decent hour, I guess, if you're living together. I mean, again, that's kind of up to the both of you to decide. Like if this person's like, I really like to gamble at the casino. And you're like, okay. I mean, there are some problems with that. But if that is truly what makes you guys tick, then, or, you know, or your partner's a night owl or an insomniac, so they like to stay out till 4 a.m. Again, haven't seen a lot of great success in those types of relationships. But if that's your jam, fly your flag. But not knowing where they are, it's just odd. Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like there's an agreement here. They haven't both signed up to the kind of one way of living, have they?
No.
So there isn't an agreement. There isn't and I suspect that over time, the feelings have then kind of built up to a point where it's like, actually, I no longer think that this is right. So it sounds like there's been a shift in view. I don't know. That's just a feeling that I get.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is kind of, but I think it comes back to, how do I want to live my life? And does this relationship measure up to that or not? And we know no one's perfect, right? So we're never going to get kind of, you know, that full blueprint of our ideal partner. But we want something that comes reasonably close, right? We want somebody who makes us feel quite good about ourselves. We want somebody who we feel safe and secure with. We want somebody who we feel really loves us and has our best interests at heart.
Yes.
And if we don't feel like we're in a relationship that's bringing all of that, because there are these other distractions or other kind of choice of lifestyle that doesn't measure up with that, there has to come a point where you question, okay, is it possible for this relationship to develop and grow into something different? Or actually, is this no longer what I want in my life?
Right, yep. So how would you, if you were this person, how would you suggest phrasing the introduction to a conversation about this to find out if there's common ground to be met or to be reached?
So it is just really starting off the conversation with a bit of kind of sharing a bit more about where you're at, I think can be a really good starting position, because we're not great at that, really. We have kind of this inner dialogue that's going 24/7, although I found out that other people don't always have that.
No. Well, it's true for me.
That's a conversation for another day. But, you know, we've got kind of like we, as we said before, you know, we grow up with ourselves. We know who we are as a person. Things may change and shift for us and we don't necessarily share that with somebody else. So maybe it's starting off the conversation with, you know, I just want to share a bit about kind of where I am and how I'm feeling. And I wanted to check in to see how you're feeling about things. Because that also provides the ability to have some space to listen, because we'll have made an assumption about the relationship and our partner and, you know, and how we think that they're feeling. And they might turn around and say, well, actually, I'm so pleased that you brought this up because things have changed for me recently and this is where I'm at. And you can start to have a bit of an honest discussion about where you're both at in your relationship and how you think things are going, without any blame or, you know, recriminations, or it's just sharing some information.
And that's your best bet to get your partner to open up, if that is indeed one of your aims. It could be that, well, you know, you never liked my mother, but I actually end up, we run on hard times in our family, and I'm actually doing home care for her from 6 till 3 a.m. And I didn't want to tell you because you never liked my mother and you'd tell me not to do that, but she needed care and we couldn't afford it as a family. So that's where I've been. So, I mean, it's possible that something as boring and routine as that, but that somebody was feeling too much shame to, you know, disclose it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? We never really truly know what's going on for somebody else until they share it with us.
Like interpretations are never
massively
right.
So.
Yeah.
I know. It's ridiculous. We do it all the time. We're like, you know, we're sat there waiting for our partners to come back and they're like, and they haven't turned up on time, and you're like, you're deliberately doing this because you know that it annoys at me, and then you make up this whole story about
cocaine
how
and strippers.
your partner,
like, yeah, that's where my mind goes.
But then the reality could be something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. That's actually a really great intro to a conversation. It's really hard, though, because you want to be all like accusatory and slipping in your interpretations, but your partner's just going to clam up and get defensive and then stonewall you, maybe, and the conversation goes nowhere and you're at the beginning. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, when we come out attacking, the only place that somebody's got to come back with is to fight too, right?
Yes.
And then it's not a fair fight. We're not considering each other. We're not listening to each other.
Yes.
Hormones start going a bit bonkers.
Yeah.
Brain doesn't actually really process what's really happening.
Yes.
Doesn't allow time to pause and think. It's very reactory.
Oh, God. You say things that you don't mean and you can never bring those, can't ever recall those. Once they're in the air, they're out there. Mm-hmm.
Start scoring points with each other.
How can you tell that Sarah and I have been in this situation before? This is not just, this is, what's the word that I'm trying to say? It's not just first-hand experience. And you know what? It doesn't end well. We can say that as coaches and we can say that as human beings who've lived these same old cycles of unhealthy communication and never ends well, like ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there is a different way, and I think it's starting to try some of that on for size. It's starting to have some of these conversations. It's starting to be more honest in moments when you have the opportunities and take those.
Yeah.
Because it does work.
It does. And you just have to be the one chess piece on the board that's willing to shift, because everything will shift around you. It is really cool. And I say that not as much from my past relationship, because lots of it wasn't showing up there in the way that I would like some of my clients to show up, to be honest. But I've seen it with my clients. Like, I've seen the shifts with my clients, the couples who do this incredible work together, and you can see one person showing up differently and the other person just naturally follows suit. Like, it is so cool to see. And so maybe you need to be the leader. Like, maybe you need to be the first chess piece to move, because I assure you, if both people are just sitting there being like, nope, not going to make the first move, no pieces move, nothing gets better and nothing changes. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Here's to good communication as always. It's our favorite C word. Oh, man.
Oh, alrighty. Well, hopefully that helped anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is it still this totally pitch dark now?
It's completely pitch dark.
Yeah. Oh.
It does not take long for the sun to set and the light to disappear. But that's okay. Yeah. I feel like I got some today.
We got some.
There was actually a beautiful, beautiful sunset last night. Obviously, I've missed it tonight. But
really?
There was a beautiful sunset last night, and it was you can definitely tell the weather's changing a little bit, and it was nice to get out and see some sunshine, have some fresh air.
Oh my God, it sounds awesome. It's funny because I was at a little restaurant yesterday, and I'd seen more foreign people here than I've seen in my entire time. It's like all of a sudden, Northern Europe just descended upon Athens, and they were all remarking, they were all the diners in the restaurant, and then I randomly ran into some guy from Liverpool and his woman from an undisclosed other place in England, and they were like, "Can we ask you directions? Do you speak English?" And I'm like, I'm sorry, I do speak English, because I probably can't help you with where you're going. Like, that's the downside to being another foreigner. And then the conversation quickly shifted to the weather. They're like, "It's shit, isn't it?" And it is. It's like 0, -1. There was snow in Athens. Like,
no way.
Swear to God. And it's still that cold. It's just not precipitating. And a bunch of poor Northern Europeans came down here for a few days. I don't know what's special about this weekend. And the weather is shit the entire time. I felt so bad for these poor people. But they're like, that's okay. There's tavernas and there's alcohol. So we're going to be fine. So it's funny you mentioned like a nice day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm freezing here. Like, literally freezing.
Well, I'm sorry. We've stolen the sunshine.
Oh, good. Well, the guy from Liverpool was like, I brought the bad weather with me. And I was like, so I guess it got really nice after he left. This poor guy from Liverpool. What's his deal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, well, enjoy the sunsets for me, please.
I will
sometime before it's
nice.
I shall
share those with you.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so not long till you head back home then as well.
Cross the pond again, I know.
Yeah.
Just filling up on olive oil. I've now started using it as a moisturizer because olive oil solves everything. And so, yeah, olive oil, moisturizing with the dry skin. I'm pouring it over everything. I'm consuming at least a bottle a week, yeah. I don't know how I'm going to get back to Canada. It's too slippery to ride the plane.
Well, you enjoy and make the most of it and enjoy the lovely scrummy food while you're there.
Oh, yeah. You've got it.
Alrighty. So, till next time.
Till next time.
So that's it for another week of Geordie Lass and Doc Sass. We hope you've enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed chatting. Get in touch and share your questions for relationship remedies and any hot topics you want us to cover. If you need help navigating all things relationships, Anna and Sara are available for one-on-one coaching support. Email info@geordielass.com. Please remember to like, share, subscribe if you've enjoyed listening. And if you've not, how on earth have you made it this far? I promise we'll try harder next time.